Robert Pickerton murdered over 25 women on his farm, but the horrific details of his crimes will turn your stomach. When investigators finally raided his pig farm in 2002, they uncovered one of the most horrifying crime scenes in Canadian history. Partial human remains were found, including 2 skulls in a freezer, jawbones buried near pig pens, bone fragments mixed with pork, and blood traces matching women who had vanished years earlier. Some remains had been processed through meat grinders, raising fears that human flesh might have been fed to pigs or even served to people. Picton would later confess to killing 49 women, mostly from Vancouver's downtown east side.
So many, he didn't appear to recognize the photos of them in police interviews.
Many were sex workers or struggling with addiction. He targeted those on the margins of society, women less likely to be reported missing and less likely to be believed. Pickerton was born in 1949 in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. He and his siblings were raised on a pig farm run by their parents, Leonard and Louise Picton. The family was reclusive, known locally for being filthy, eccentric, and emotionally distant. Robert dropped out of school in his early teens and never fully integrated into society. He was described as socially awkward, with poor hygiene and few close relationships. In 1978, he inherited the family farm with his brother and turned part of it into a non-profit event space known as Piggy's Palace. It became notorious as a party venue, frequented by bikers, sex workers, and people from Vancouver's underground scene. Police would later describe it as a chaotic, lawless space where anything could happen. Between 1983 and 2002, women began disappearing from the downtown east side. As the number of missing continued to rise, families raised concerns, but for years the police dismissed the disappearances as unrelated, assuming the women had overdosed, moved away, or left voluntarily. The possibility of a serial killer was ignored. Picton was questioned multiple times.
What girls that you remember have ever been up to your place?
There's so many people coming in my place, I don't know.
In 1997, he was arrested for the attempted murder of a woman who escaped his farm after being stabbed multiple times. She survived and told police everything, and yet the charges were dropped. The case was dismissed because the victim, a drug user, was deemed unreliable. He went back to the farm, and the killings continued. It wasn't until 2002 that the police returned with a search warrant, this time looking for illegal firearms. What they found instead were items belonging to missing women. That triggered a deeper investigation, and soon the property was sealed off. Over 200,000 DNA samples were collected. Cadaver dogs scoured the area. Heavy equipment was brought in to sift through the pig manure. The forensic work was overwhelming. Human remains were so decomposed or contaminated that many victims could only be identified by DNA. Some remains were never identified at all. In total, Picton was eventually linked to the deaths of at least 26 women, but he boasted to an undercover officer that he had killed 49 and wanted to make it an even 50.
Totally insensitive, so totally unempathetic, classic psychopathic personality.
In 2007, he was convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder. The prosecution chose the strongest cases first, aiming to secure a conviction without overwhelming the jury. He received the maximum sentence under Canadian law, life imprisonment with no parole eligibility for 25 years. The case triggered national outrage, not just at Picton, but at the institutions that failed to stop him. For decades, families had begged police to take the missing women seriously. Repeated warnings were ignored. A public inquiry later concluded that systemic bias, particularly against Indigenous women and sex workers, allowed Picton to operate unchecked for years. Even behind bars, Picton remained a disturbing figure. He reportedly showed no remorse and rarely spoke to the media. A self-published book, ghost-written while he was in prison, tried to portray him as a scapegoat, sparking public backlash and demands for it to be banned. In May 2024, Pickerton was attacked by another prisoner in a Quebec prison. The prisoner, Martin Charest, speared Picton in the head with a broken broom-like handle.
Robert Picton has been held in a special unit in maximum security prison, designed to keep him away from other inmates. So news he was attacked there May 19th came as a surprise.
Picton was airlifted to a hospital and put on life support. He died at a hospital in Quebec City from complications of the attack. Robert Picton didn't just murder dozens of women. He exposed deep cracks in Canada's justice system. His crimes weren't just brutal, they were preventable, and the stain of his legacy still hangs over Vancouver to this day. Thanks for watching.